Hi, I'm Stephan Kesting from grapplers.com, and here's something that I talked about on my Instagram story that got really good reception. A lot of people told me it was really super useful, so I'm going to expand on it a little bit more in the context of a full video. And that topic is coming back to training after an injury layoff. Now, injuries are the devil. Injuries is probably the number one thing, more so than a bad teacher, more so than bad training partners, more so than bad genetics. It's the number one thing that's going to slow you down and stop you from reaching your full potential. Out there somewhere is somebody who is more flexible than Eddie Bravo and more talented than Marcelo Garcia and stronger than Rodolfo Vieira and better at leg locks than Eddie Cummins. And he was coming up through the ranks and he was doing super well. And one day he had a catastrophic injury, a blowout, something that never recovered. Maybe his back went out or his neck went out. And he never managed to make a successful return to the mats. And that's why you've never heard of him. So to some extent, the guys at the top of the game are the guys who've minimized the number of serious injuries they've had and maximized their recovery time and gotten better faster, recovered from the inevitable injuries as fast as they could. So what do you do about coming back to training after a layoff? Part of the problem is that if you like training, if you love training the way that I do, you've had this long layoff and you're just itching to get back, and finally your doctor gives you the okay, or finally you've had enough and say, screw it, I'm coming back to training. Or maybe you never even took time off after you got injured and you went back and trained anyway. And you make a small injury or a medium injury a terrible injury. You're coming back. So your timing's going to be off, your spatial awareness is going to be off, you're going to be clumsier, your spider sense for when something's bad and when something is about to go wrong is off. You're going to be out of shape, so you're not going to be able to go as hard, you're not going to be as flexible, you're not going to be as strong. So you're not in as good a shape as you were probably when you left. Now you come back and you're all excited about training. So you go super hard, and in going super hard, you're going against people who continue to get better in your absence. And something usually goes wrong if you go full bore. So the key is to make haste slowly. Come back to the mat slowly. Don't go full bore right away. Because think of it this way. If you got injured and you come back, if you're going to re-injure yourself, you want to re-injure yourself a little bit. You want to have a small setback, right? Your bicep was torn. You come back. You tweak your bicep a little bit and you go, okay, I really got to dial it back. You don't want to have a big re-injury because now you could be talking months or years or never for you to get back to full function. So by going light initially, you give your body the opportunity to make those mistakes and find out whether or not you really should be back in a low stakes, in a low risk environment. So how do you train lightly when you come back? It's easy. You don't do full sparring. In a jiu-jitsu context, that means full sparring. The same thing applies to Kyokushin. If you come back from having your ribs broken and you're training in Kyokushin karate with all those body punches and kicks, and you go straight to full-on sparring, those ribs are probably going to break again, or you'll injure some other part of your body and then you'll be out again. So you come back in a controlled setting. Mostly, initially, you're going to do drilling, and you're going to pick your drilling carefully. If your neck is bad, well then I suggest to you that you don't start with inverted guard drilling. You start working on some other aspect of your game. How about your basic escapes from the basic positions and your basic attacks from the basic positions, but no inverted guard. Leave that until you're 100% back. So drill more than spar. If you are going to spar, do very limited sparring. If your neck is bad, well, do passing the guard. Do stand-up passing the guard, not kneeling where the guy can pull on your neck and pull on your head and injure your neck. You're going to stand up and you work on those standing guard passes even if you're not super comfortable with them. This is a great time to drill. And if you pass the guard and the guy latches on you and maybe the guy's a sleeve choke specialist or he's going to start wrapping your head, you stop. You go back into the guy's guard and you work passing the guard again, standing up. So you're sparring things that keep your body safe. I've got a video out there, I'll link to it up there, of how to train with an injured arm. That's another example of limited sparring, where you're going to train with 2 legs and 1 arm, and your opponent, your partner, is going to train with 2 legs and 1 arm, and you're not going to go full bore right away, all limbs, all positions, all techniques, all submissions. You're going to take it easy by working a subset of techniques. And that brings me to the final point for sparring. Be very, very careful who you spar with. You know, and I know, and it's common knowledge that some people are maybe really good training partners for when you want a hard, intense workout, and other people, typically but not always lighter people, typically but not always less aggro people, are better flowing partners. They're better rolling partners. It's not like every fight is a death match. Those death matches are important. It's important to have those in your jiu-jitsu development. But coming back from injury, that's not the time for these killer, all-out blood on the mat training sessions. Save that for a little bit. And you'll find as you're drilling, as you're doing limited sparring, as you're sparring with sane people and slowly going up the weight, that's another important thing. Generally, you should start sparring, start rolling, start training with lighter people. Bigger people, if you're 150 pounds and you're training with a 200-pound guy, say me, and I slip and fall and I land on you, then I could hurt you. It could re-injure that rib cage injury. It could re-injure that shoulder injury. There's just more force. There's more momentum. There's more mass. There's more potential for a giant screw up. If you're going with lighter people, generally, you're going to avoid those larger catastrophic injuries. So, also pick and choose who you spar with based on size. Unless there's a really, sensible, big, guy who can really control where he is in space and not land on you, not pick you up and accidentally throw you on your neck for the third time in your training time together. So eventually what will happen in all this drilling and positional sparring and sparring with not crazy, lighter people, is whatever body part you had will get a hit. Say it's your knee. Say you're coming back from a tweaked LCL or whatever, and you get hit. And at first you're scared, and then you go, hang on, nothing popped. Hang on, that wasn't as bad as I thought. Then you start getting confidence in that body part again, right? You hurt your arm, you hurt your shoulder, and you get out of a position, you go, 2 months ago, that would have been it. I would have been able to spar, I would have to go back to the doctor. Now it's pretty much okay. You start getting confidence back in that body part and getting confidence back in your body after an injury, because having that injury, you're so worried about that body part all the time. Getting confidence back in that body part is a big part of the comeback process. So just to summarize, don't rush the comeback process. There's so many people that I've seen, and so many times that I've done this too, where you come back too quickly, where you come back too hard. You're so happy to be training again that you go full bore, your timing's off, your coordination's off. Guys are eager to beat you up because you might have been neck and neck with them when you got injured. Now you've taken some time off, they've gotten better, they can smell the blood in the water, and now they're really going to get you with that crazy leaping, spinning choke. And that's where the injuries happen. So don't get re-injured should be the focus of your first 1, 2, 3, maybe even 6 months back on the mat, depending what you were off with. If you follow those guidelines, the odds of you coming back to training and back to the mat successfully without re-injuring yourself are pretty good. Take care and good luck with your training.